All right. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're having yourselves a fantastic Thursday. Happy pimento cheese Thursday. And yeah, hope you guys are having yourselves a great start to the AM here and are really enjoying, really enjoying the trading here this week in what has been a wildly volatile week, right? We've seen a lot of chaos here in every which way direction. And yeah, hopefully, right, this creates another day of tradable opportunities for us here. And yeah, we can kind of keep grinding away. Yesterday's move, nuts. Like one of the craziest single day moves that I have ever seen with my own two eyes. One of the three largest days that has ever happened, largest intraday, kind of move that has ever happened. And I think we're well positioned to maintain a certain element of volatility here. Certainly seems like that isn't going away. Now, not to say here that I'm blindly bullish or blindly bearish. I'm not sure if that's necessarily the right way to look at this price action here yet. But this is very similar or reminds me effectively of like a bear market relief bounce, right? It's kind of like one of those types of moves. So we often kind of see, right, that when it's like trending markets, price likes to grind in the direction of the trend, and then you end up getting like a really violent reversal on those pullbacks, and then it kind of continues trending again. Now, yesterday, right, headline-driven buying pressure, some of the craziest types of moves that have ever happened, but the range that actually occurred, it's a little bit of a premonition potentially of bad things ahead. So the only other times the only other times, right, where we've seen that type of single day volatility, right, was 2008, 2001, and 1987. And if we look at the kind of like daily charts starting from those days, hard to call that a pretty bit of price action, and ended up being a little bit of disastrous bit of PA there for a lot of people. Now, doesn't mean that today, right, we're going to get an immediate sell-off, or that we're going to get a huge dump, or we're going to get any of those things. I don't know, right? And I don't think anyone actually knows what the market is going to do. And so we're not trying to attach our ego into what we want to happen here today. We're effectively just going to look for setups, right, and opportunities that neatly follow our rules. And yeah, hopefully, right, that sets us up to continue to profit in what has been an awesome week here so far. We've had 3 very volatile trading days. We've had 3 really nice P&L days. And, after a little bit of some challenging times, right, last week with sort of those 2 losing days, we're nicely sitting here at all-time highs in the portfolio, right? We're back to where we should be, and we're back to compounding here and building up what has been a nice little buffer. From a personal perspective, right, the thing that I'm continuing to focus on here inside these highly volatile environments is, again, right, that calm and cool and kind of controlled demeanor, right, and kind of like relying almost on my alter ego and forcing myself, right, to really try to slow down, basically just like the heart rate, right, when price action is moving here. With the ranges that we've seen this week, we're getting like 200 points to start off the opening range. And then when we get breakouts, right, it pulls back to within 100 points of our stop loss, but never gives us a chance to actually enter. And we can't allow that to be discouraging here, right? We can't allow that to kind of trick us into chasing price action or being willing to take on an oversized loss. All of those things are ultimately just going to cost us more money, and they're going to put us in situations where You just end up, it's like a double jeopardy, right? You feel bad for losing money, and then you feel bad for breaking a rule that led to a larger than expected loss. And so we can effectively avoid, right, both of those worst case scenarios by just being a little bit more disciplined, a little bit more patient, right, and not trying to force or rush anything. And yesterday was a very, very good example of that. You know, we spent probably 2 hours, maybe call it an hour 45, basically dealing with those really aggressive ranges, right? Not being able to get any consistent follow through. And then all of a sudden, right after 11:30, we got some really nice ranges. We're able to get some good risk reward ratios, and we got ourselves a 4R win. And so, yeah, like I think it's understanding that like a setup it's like a bus, right? Another one is always coming. And yeah, you can kind of go from there. Hey, John, if you want to use a platform to trade on, you can use TradingView. But that's something that you need to kind of figure out in your own way. Inside the Discord, I'd work through the Start Here channel. It'll kind of walk you through all the various options and how to set those things up. So yeah, with that being said, team, really looking forward to today's trading day. Optimistic that we're going to get ourselves some pretty nice price action and hopefully, right, can keep compounding on what has been a fantastic trading week. With the gap down here already this AM, we are going to have to be a little bit aware, right, of prop firm limits here to the downside and limit down limits. And then, yeah, make sure that we're basically just not getting stuck as price action kind of hangs out inside those zones. So yeah, let's start mapping things out here. Let's figure out what we want to do this AM, and let's set ourselves up for a strong trading day. So I don't know anything too crazy here. We got some Fed speak this afternoon, Fed budget, yada, yada, yada. Nat gas storage, not going to be an issue here. 30-year bond auction, that could be a little bit of an interesting one. Okay, relatively clear calendar for us here today. And hopefully, right, that gives us some smooth conditions. So first things first, right, what's the count here on ES? And let's go there. Good morning, everybody. Hope you guys are feeling well, feeling sharp, stoked to be here. And yeah, let's get after it. So yeah, Jack, spot on. 2 out of 3 here to the upside with volume. Good morning, Vinny. And so we're targeting a move here to the upside. We'll call it 55.30. I'm losing my mind with how much we're changing these numbers here on a daily basis. It's like each one is a surprise. So 55.30, 55.40, 55.50. We'll go like what, 5,600? To the downside here, right? We need to, again, map out those prop firm limits. So just a random guess for now. That's about 5%. So our 7% level here, we'll call that 51.15. That's limit down. Insane range. Oh, I should mention, right? This is kind of just another statistic. This is the first time in history where we've had 3 days of 10% in both directions. Yeah, I think today, Sammy, it is reasonable for me to still have a little bit of a potential bearish bias, but with like extreme prejudice. I'd be probably more looking for failed breakouts versus like a failed bullish sustained move, right? And then a breakdown lower. That would likely be the narrative that I'm most interested in here if I'm going to get that downside case. But from my perspective, this still looks like two-way tape. So yeah, a bit more of a bullish bias for sure. That news headline was crazy, but the pre-market reaction selling off 2% still here this morning maybe tells me that it isn't as convincing, right, as maybe I would like. Excuse me. So targeting 52.10 eventually, right, effectively is our final stopping point. We're at 53.90 here this morning. So we'll go like 53.70 and just go down to 5,300. Sweet, 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 sweet. Any questions here, guys? Make sense? All right, sweet. NQ. Similar, not so similar. How do we feel? Yeah, same thing here, right? 2 out of 3 to the upside with volume. Same kind of banana land price action. Insane. Insane rallies. So here's the, I guess like the, the bearish scenario, right? It's everyone yesterday saw this incredible buying pressure and they're all FOMOing in, right, and chasing this and doing whatever. And so if we're going to get that next leg of like really aggressive bearish selling pressure, you effectively need to do the opposite of a short squeeze, right? You need to have a bunch of longs that are trapped and offside and are trying to liquidate their positions incredibly aggressively. That's what we got caught right in yesterday. I shouldn't say we, I should say the market in general. We made money yesterday. But the market ripped so aggressively here to the upside because it was effectively liquidating stop losses, right, as it was flying through those levels. The bear case here, right, in this extreme volatility is now effectively the same. This has lured in a bunch of new buyers that maybe will end up offside once they, once that call it that tug of war, right, kind of flips the other end. It could be a really dramatic kind of flush and fall. So not to say that that's guaranteed to happen, but that's generally the kind of like gunpowder, right, that is required to get those like massive moves, and why you see these massive 10% rippers, right, end up getting destroyed in bearish markets. To the upside here, to get back on track, we're looking at a 19.4 kind of as our starting point. So that's 1,200 points away from today's price action. That might be a little bit too aggressive, so I'll go let's call it 19,000. Oh no, I'm being dumb. Never mind. 19.4 is fine. Lucky I don't have any adult websites on this. Whew. All right, 19.7. Didn't think I was going to see 20,000 on my screen here for a while. And then again, same thing here, right? We need to map out those limit down prices. So that would be 17,925. Just sanity check at that level. Okay. And then 2% up from that, right, is going to be our prop firm limit. And that's going to be, we'll call it 282. Sweet. And then that's going to be really our target here, right, for maximum downside follow through. We're at 19.8 here this morning. Sorry, 18.8. So I'm going to go 18.5. I think the levels are going to be mapped out here with the ORB. And then, yeah, 18,000, actually 18.2, right? 18.3, actually, the only level I can go to. All right, makes sense? All right, fantastic. So CL, what's the count here? How do we feel? Strong, not so strong? What's maybe the concern? Yeah, bigger pre-market move right to the downside. We would be a little bit closer to potentially being capped at those prop firm limits. So just from that risk perspective, right, we might be a little bit limited trading this year to the downside. But yeah, this does give us upside flexibility. We're going to be okay. Targeting up towards 63 or so. Yesterday's mean reversion setup on this did end up paying out pretty aggressively on those short-term time frames. Albeit right, not in a way that I would have really enjoyed trading. So no FOMO in missing that or ignoring those signals. But again, right, another indication of how that setup trigger works. Had I maybe gotten a look there on the longer time frame, yeah, it could have been interesting. Did not happen. So we're at $60 here pre-market. So I'll go like 61 as sort of my first level. And then up towards pre-market high here of about 63. We'll go 61.50, 62, 62.50, 63. And then to the downside here, right, this is where we got to map out our levels. And 7%, right, not too far away. So we're looking at a 58.35, we'll call it. Right, and then prop firm limit, right, is 2% up from that, which sets us at, we'll say 59.60. So not a ton of space here to the downside. Right, that might be, I'm a little bit artificially capped within that context. And we'll just say, yeah, 59.60 kind of sucks, but that is what it is, right? You want to use someone else's money, you got to play by their rules. And unfortunately, this is one that they are instituting. All right, Apple, 2 out of 3 here with volume. Nailed it. Honestly, if I could just make bets on, there's Tesla, what a rip. If I could just make bets on if it would be an inside bar or an outside day, I think my life would be really easy for whatever reason. All right, Tesla, mega move there yesterday, 20% ripper. What a play. So 2 out of 3 with volume. Okay, Microsoft, same thing, 2 out of 3 with vol. Okay, Amazon, 2 out of 3 with vol. Pretty much the same narrative everywhere here so far, right? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Rico. Can't imagine. AMD, right, 2 out of 3 here to the upside. Same thing with NVIDIA. And I said that even before I saw it, so that's maybe a little bit sloppy. Okay, Meta, pretty good, 2 out of 3. With vol, awesome. And then Netflix, 2 out of 3 with vol again. Google, 2 out of 3 here to the upside with volume. And then the old Vixaroonie, 36.16. So still extremely elevated here. Implied daily range of about 2%, right? 36 divided by 16. So yeah, quite a bit of space, right, for us to be able to play with here. And yeah, maybe ends up being a little bit of just kind of like a chop day here after such a big move. Now, a chop day, right, in this volatility is still absurd size ranges, right? So that's why like I want to have a little bit of that flexibility to trade in both directions. because I think the moves that have the opportunity to pay out, if we can get the right position sizing, right, and kind of risk reward system put in place, is going to set us up to be very successful here. And even if we get, an inside bar day, a low vol pullback type day, I mean, that could still end up being a really good kind of bet to take, right? So today I'm trying to really just put myself in situations where I can play that probability with just a little bit of like some discipline and some self-control, right? But also with like that clear head. And if I do all three of those kind of things here together, I'm confident I'll keep stacking up more and more green days and not really feel too like disheveled about the quality of my trading. If I'm thinking about some of the improvements here that I have made in the last month or so, I think it is fundamentally starting with just that mindset tweak or mindset shift that I've really been trying to put some work towards, right? Being a little bit more stoic, being a little bit more calm, right? Kind of practicing a little bit more gratitude has allowed me to just remain a little bit more rational, right? A little bit less snappy. And I think all of those things have made a really tremendous impact here on my trading. And so it continues to be sort of the emphasis that I want to focus on. The trader who you are during market hours and the trader who you are outside of market hours is a choice. And that, I would say, is one that I wasn't always making the best one. And so I'm a little bit more aware of that here now. And I've been really enjoying effectively going through that process and feeling the sort of calmness basically overcome me, right, when I'm making decisions. And that's been really profitable. It's been really, really positive. And so I want to keep rewarding that variant here instead of needing to be like the super entertaining gambler who wants to just see the world win or world burn. I don't know if I was ever that to an extreme, but I think it's allowed me to look at things a little bit more objectively and a little bit more peacefully and a little bit more profitably. So continuing, right, to make that my emphasis, continuing to put all my energy and effort into those kind of little tweaks and just focusing on getting just 1% better a day, improving one little thing, fixing one little thing, learning one little thing, right, each and every single day. I am seeing the fruits of my labor here pay out in an extremely volatile environment, right? And what I have found to be honestly exceptionally liberating here this week, and I mean this in the most positive way, is that it has been a week where being the best loser, losing small, like not making those trades feel personal, has made it really easy to make the win rate irrelevant, right? With the risk reward that I trade and sort of the follow through that we've been consistently getting, 4R moves here pretty consistently. It means that I need to be correct on 22.5% of my trades to be profitable. So now I'm more profitable than that, or my win rate is better than that. But I'm able to play that numbers game so much easier right now. And I think that's ultimately what is making this game feel a little bit smoother at the moment, right? Or less volatile or less stressful. So like to go full circle, right? It's being calm. It's being really obsessive over thinking about my mentality, my emotional state here intraday, thinking about all of those variables and being just a little bit more proactive in how I'm protecting myself there is making it easier for me to play the numbers game that I've designed for myself with my trading system. And being able to play that game with such a large margin for error is ultimately what's allowing me to take advantage of this volatility. So it's like the second order consequence, right, of focusing on that mentality shift has actually been a significantly more profitable kind of daily, weekly, monthly P&L. And that ultimately, right, is the evidence I need to keep thinking about these second order consequences. One of my favorite trading cliches is that what feels best in the moment is rarely best for our account long terms. And I think what like this emphasis on just really being more proactive with my psychology has allowed me to effectively delay that gratification by even just like one or two trades, and not attaching my ego to the singular outcome, both positive and negative, has been fantastic. Losses don't feel personal, and wins, when they start to feel big, I'm not doubling down when I start to feel greedy. And so all of those things are really working nicely in unison here. And I'm confident we'll be able to keep that up and keep kind of progressing and growing and improving. So we got 5 minutes here till market open. Rants and raves on both sides of the pre-market prep. So apologies, but hope you guys are ready for what should be a very, very fun and successful trading day. And then we'll get after it here, guys, in a few minutes. I'm just going to go make myself a quick cup of coffee, do a little bit of breath work, and then, yeah, we'll jump back on here and get ready for what should be a strong, strong day. If you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. I'll do my best to answer them when I see them. Otherwise, let's absolutely crush it, and I'll be back in 2 or 3 minutes. All right, team. So that's market open. Let's see how the chaos reigns supreme. No Trump speak here today, so we'll see if that slows down markets here by any chance. But yeah, flexibility here in both directions. Probably a little bit easier for us to play a bullish scenario here this morning, but I'm like a little bit easier. I'd probably go like 55-45, right, within that context. So we'll see if that ends up kind of coming together. If we do get some upside moves, right, those are the easier trades, larger ranges. We have the effectively unlimited potential here to the downside, right? We don't. We've got those limit down days that will get halted. There are no, limit down or limit up, right, variants here for futures. They could basically squeeze for as long as we possibly want. You will get some circuit breaker type stuff. But you don't have the same restrictions here like you get to the downside. Markets aren't concerned about face ripping rallies. They're concerned about rug pull type events. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Any questions here, team? Any questions you guys want to go over? Anything I didn't touch or kind of comment on here today? Everything kind of makes sense. We're all feeling good, sharp, refreshed, ready to go. So unlikely that we're going to get a mean reversion look here today, right? Because the way that a mean reversion works is that we need to see price action be at extreme levels, right, relative to its recent PA. So yesterday's candles range, right, is going to juice up the averages of what extreme is when you get a 600 point move. So it would be I'd be surprised if I got a mean reversion set up here on any time frame that I'd be willing to trust. Hey, let's go, Samuel. Congratulations. So my advice here, right, is that although that's a fantastic target and you're really close to achieving it, right? Don't force it. Just stick to your rules, stick to your process, right? Stick to the things that have been working for you and don't deviate away from the techniques that have helped you become profitable. In my experience, I know that for myself, that when I'm close to like accomplishing a trading goal, there's like a little evil Knievel element of me that's like, ooh, what if I just went long calls, or what if I just went long here, or if I did it, whatever, right? So yeah, love that you have the right mindset here, and yeah, man, you're very close. So keep it up, and let me know how it goes. Trading view's nice and slow again here this morning. Good old trading view. How you guys liking the emails I've been sending out here this week? They kind of making sense? Are they answering some questions? Fantastic. So yeah, if there's ever like, guys, like I'm an open book, right? So like the reason why I don't really like do the affiliate code stuff and all these sort of things with the prop firms is I want to work for you guys. I don't want to work for anyone else, right? So what that means is that if you have something you want me to discuss, you have a question you want answered, you want to deep dive on a topic, just ask, right? And I will gladly put together that type of stuff. It actually would make my life easier because then I don't have to come up with the idea generation or like I don't have to pretend I'm like this is gonna sound bad, but it's like, you know, when they ask a politician what the price of milk is by the gallon, like I have no clue what milk costs. It's kind of the same thing with the newsletter, right? If there's something there that you know, you feel like I don't hit well enough or I haven't explained well, or maybe it's confusing in the course, for me it's not, right? I created it. So I don't see my blinders, right? I don't get to, like, my bias is that my information is perfect when I know that it isn't. So if you feel like there's something missing, you feel like yeah, you feel like there's something kind of not there, please let me know. I'll be happy to do it. All those sort of things. Well, for those of you who are DTR members here already, you're not going to see any difference here. I will say it is a little bit of a marketing promo. Okay, so first attempt here on an opening range breakout doesn't sustain. Actually, less volume maybe than I would have expected here so far. So minute to go on ES. I think you're not unlikely. I got some work to do from a volume perspective. Let's just say that. Same thing here with NQ. Got some work to do from a volume perspective. It's just the default, Samuel, which is the 20 MA. So it's just the default setting. It generally, when I'm like using like just like default indicators or default tools, I keep my settings as is. Now the only exception to that here, right, is effectively the Bollinger Bands that I've created on this, right? The Bollinger Bands here are 3.5 standard deviations, so 1.5 times more standard deviations than the normal Bollinger Bands. And so that's like a custom script. But that's like, yeah, that's an outlier, right? That's an outlier. Okay, so what's wrong with ES here so far? So we have a good fake out lower, right? Good candle color, increasing volume, but what's missing? So Vinny's right on the right track. What's the volume? What would we call it? Yeah, it's not outlier. Exactly, right? So we have no indication of like a personality change here yet. if I'm going to say water gun to your head, right? And I'm saying, what's the most likely outcome after a really massive trend day? What would you say it probably is the case? Yeah, probably chop, right? Catch your breath. So not to say that it wouldn't give us that narrative, right? Doesn't mean we can't get a trend day in either direction. And chop, right, inside a 10% range day is a tremendous amount of follow through that we could still target. But we know, right, that probably the most likely outcome here today is kind of like a form of consolidation or like a form of kind of sticky, trappy price action. So we're starting, right, with that kind of like bias in mind. And I need to see a proven otherwise from price action to basically indicate that we've got some sort of change in personality. Now, chop in this context, right, isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? Because we've done really well trading the chop. We've done fantastic actually trading this volatility here this week. But it just means, right, that, hey, if I'm expecting things to be a little bit more bouncy, a little bit more fake out and go-y, so a weird way of describing it, sounds like a yogurt, then I'm kind of setting myself up, right, to know that, hey, I need to be probably a little bit more patient, right, with where I'm clicking my submit button. I need to be a little bit more casual. I need to be a little bit more calm, right, as price action is pulling back into sort of my levels. And effectively, right, I shouldn't need to be in a rush to chase a move just for the sake of it. Now, I gotta eat my words here, right? We've got an NQ setup on this 3-minute time frame. Bearish engulfing candle, bearish engulfing on volume, right? It is outlier, and it broke down and held under low of day. So like from every objective setup measure, it's giving me the look that I want. So I can start to box this trade in, right? Profit target is going to be 18.5. Stop loss would be 752. So that means, right, I would need a pullback around 27 to be within my 25-point range. And so I would probably push it up to here then, right? Previous low of day. So use that 735 there as my area of support. If I can't get on this 3-minute time frame, I'll just wait for the 5, right? And re-jump back in. Heck, the 5 might even be preferable, right? If we can get that breakdown and hold under 600, probably a little bit more of a scenario that we could get a good oomph. But I would still potentially be interested in this. So I'm going to start to fill in my order window. Now, again, right? I just spent 2 minutes talking about how as I see things pull back into my entry zone, I want to be a little bit more patient. I want to be a little bit more cautious, right? I don't need to be impulsive here. I don't need to feel as if I don't get this entry, I'm never going to make any money. That's all like self-inflicted bullshit type reactions. Sorry for lack of a better term. So I would rather miss a challenging trade, right, than chase one. So to a certain extent here today, if I'm expecting it to be a choppy environment, I'm expecting there to be kind of like a pretty aggressive range. The mindset that I effectively want to adopt here is that if it isn't easy, I don't want it. You know, I want this setup to be like last call at the bar. It's 3 a.m. and they dim the lights. You know, no one can say no. Kind of what I want this setup to be, right? It's got to be easy. Absolutely horrific analogy there, by the way. The market's going to give me crabs. Yeah, so for me, it's always the blue line, Rebecca, right? So my limit price that I would have filled in here would be that blue line, 734.75. Right. So for me, when I'm finding or pulling back into my entry zone, the blue line is what I'm putting in as my limit price. So no entry here yet, right? That was not the correct reaction here post breakdown. Again, right? Being understanding that, hey, chop, chop, chop. Didn't force myself into a decision. Yeah, so to clarify there, when I'm boxing in trades, right? The red line is my stop loss, right? And then the difference between the green line here and the red line, this is my risk reward zone. So like if I take a trade here, I have positive expected value of being profitable inside my setups. And then what I want to do inside that zone, right? Inside this area, there's a spot where I'm risking that $500 or I'm risking, whatever my max loss is, right? So sometimes it'll be that green line, but I would say like 85% of the time, it'll probably be inside that zone, which means, right, that my risk reward is actually better than 3.5 to 1. I will often get like 5 to 1, 6 to 1, even 10 to 1 on some of those entries. But it's just, helps me just visualize my risk reward ratio. And then once I can justify the risk reward ratio, I still have to be deliberate in making sure I'm not losing more than I want, right? Effectively. So then I'm working backwards from my stop loss price, adding plus 25 on NQ, right? Adding plus 5 on ES, and then working from there to find my entry. That kind of makes sense? Awesome. And yeah, if I ever don't draw the blue line, there will be times where I will forget. I am a deeply flawed human. Let me know. I'll always be happy to share that. So CL would have to be effectively just a setup here to the upside to Lamont, simply because we're at those prop firm limits here already to the downside. So I just don't have any opportunity for really any significant follow through here lower. So I'm a little bit limited here today because of that limit, right? That creates like a little bit of maybe an extra bias or like maybe I'm a little bit too boxed in. So CL would be like a break glass in case of emergency type trade. If I'm getting an upside setup, I'd rather trade that on the indexes. Or if I get a downside setup, I'd rather trade that on the indexes. So from just like an execution perspective here today, CL is probably a little bit more challenging than any of our other tickers because we're already at basically implied risk limits. And so that just creates a lot of extra execution hiccups. And I'm not smart enough to figure out how to manage those. Yeah, so it's all based, right, on how much the contract moves per point, right, or per cent. So ES moves $5 a point or $50 a point, sorry, right? NQ moves $20 a point, and CL moves $10 a cent. Right? So as long as I'm less than 10 cents of risk, I can go buy 5 contracts. But remember, right? Everything I'm working backwards from what's my max loss that I'm willing to accept per trade. For me, it's about $500, right? That's where I want to be with my 1% type drawdown. So that's the number you have to work backwards from. And then on every trade, right, there's a point. Again, I'm not taking this, right? But an entry here at 575 versus an entry at 580 or at 59.80, right? I can risk the same amount dollar-wise, but get double the contracts, right, at 59.80 versus at 59.72. So inside your risk-reward bubble, there's a sweet spot for yourself, right, over where your risk gets invalidated at the low or the high, and you have the best entry. So it's kind of like a selfish question you have to ask yourself. And it's why that I demand that everyone understands, right, the value per tick or the value per contract that you're trading. Because if you're going to be surprised over what your P&L is here, it becomes really challenging to accept that decision. And if you're relying on my psychology to bail you out or my position sizing to bail you out, then you're going to make decisions based on anxiety instead of based on control. So a lot of really easy ways to do that, right? If I just load up a paper trader here, I'll show you guys, right? Say I want my stop loss to be 59.85. Type in, right? 59.85. I'm going short, and I want my risk to be $500. Right? I can change this dollar risk level to be 500, and it'll automatically, right, adapt my contracts and change my position sizing to make sure that I'm only losing my max loss number at my 59.85 target. So this tool here, right, this order window is going to answer all those questions for you as long as you choose to be proactive with that decision. And I would insist, even demand, right, that this is the process that you're working through each trade. It's always identify your stop loss location, right? Identify your profit target and then work backwards to your entry price. If you start to compromise this, I guarantee you your trading is going to go really badly. Guaranteed. Not sure if I understand that question, Rajat. It's like for me, right? If I have a setup gets confirmed when I have a strong candle shape, right? So candle 1, 2, or 3 plus increasing outlier volume. So if I'm playing a reversal off of the lows, it needs to be candle 1, 2, or 3 shape with strong outlier volume. Otherwise, I'm not interested in it. I'm not quite sure what you mean by your question. But yeah, if I saw a hammer on increasing outlier volume, a hammer candle, right, would be a setup. Confirmation would be closing as a hammer on increasing outlier. And then I could look for entries. Yeah, so far so chill. It's been what, 5 candles of kind of one up, one down, one up, one down. Yeah, we're gonna be a little bit patient. And Kyle, it was like this all day yesterday too, up until like 11:30, right? It was pretty gross PA for a while, and then see ya. So very few reasons here to be super aggressive today. Again, we've had a very successful trading week here so far. 3 green days in a row. If I don't get another trade here today, hell, if I don't even get another trade this month, it's been a good month. Yeah, so far so chill. CL again, can't trade this in this range. I'm a little bit stuck there. How's everyone feeling today? Everyone feeling sharp? Everyone happy with their trading week so far? Maybe that's a better question. Like if you can make money in this volatility, you can make money in anything. Love that, Vinny. Congratulations. Love it, Kyle. That's a positive thing, right? It's been a good learning week. Fantastic, Sammy. Yeah, so historically, Rico, right, this is a sell-off spot for markets. The only other scenarios, right, or 9 out of 10 of the other scenarios, right, where you saw this kind of like massive 10% green to red move ended up only occurring inside bearish markets. So with a grain of salt, now the sample size of that is very small. But yesterday's outlier, like I said, it was historical price action. I'm not quite saying that price action is annexing Czechoslovakia, but certainly is rhyming here a little bit, and it wouldn't be surprised if we get a little bit of contagion across the board. Okay, so increasing, not outlier volume there. What is SPY at? Okay. Yeah, who knows? And I think there's probably a little bit more of a bearish probability here. But we'll see. Who knows what Trump's going to wake up and want to do here today. Going to get a sugar rush from his McDonald's and Diet Cokes and fuck with our pensions. uh Man, the amount of this is making me laugh, but the amount of FOMO messages I got yesterday from like friends and family. Oh my god. Scared to buy on Tuesday. Can't believe they missed it on Wednesday. Oh man. Yeah, so what you can see on my screen here, Golden Buddy, is TradingView. So I do all my charting and analysis here on TradingView and then execute through a variety of brokers and platforms. So I'll execute through My Funded Futures, aka Tradeovate, then Top Step X, which is sort of Top Step's internal platform, and Interactive Brokers. But I do all my analysis here on TradingView. I find it to be the best charting platform, albeit besides Bloomberg. I miss Bloomberg sometimes. Maybe I don't miss Bloomberg. I miss the Bloomberg reps. Maybe a better way of describing it. It was always this is going to be maybe too much information, but it was always like the most excited that the desk would get every single year. Every year, all the Bloomberg reps would come down and take us out for dinner. And if you are familiar with Bloomberg's hiring practices, their sales reps are like I don't know how to put this nicely. They're beautiful. That's kind of a nice way of describing it. And so you'd get 10 of these wonderful ladies coming down to Guernsey for a weekend, take you all to dinner, and it would just be like the most like testosterone filled guys all making fools of themselves. That was a great time. You can use a phone to trade. Your Golden Buddy, and anything, right? Like I said, I only do my analysis on here, right? So I'm not actually going to be placing any trades on this screen. But like my workflow is I'm a 3-screen trader. So I've got this screen that you guys can see. I've got one above me, and then I've got one to my right where I do all my executions. So there isn't really a right or wrong answer there. It's just whatever suits you and your style. Pretty much every single company, charting platform, whatever, has a mobile option. So you're more than welcome to do that. Yeah, someone here is saying that they trade on a Z Fold 6 with their phone. And so, yeah, it is totally possible. But I work from my office, so I just don't do that setup. And I've been trading off a computer my whole life, so I'm a bit stubborn. I've never used pocket options, so I can't comment. You know, my official like recommendation for how I would say you should set your setup up. You can find that in the Start Here channel inside the Discord. There'll be like 10 videos that'll break it down and get you set up there nicely. But I say this all the time, guys, right? Keep the main thing the main thing. A different broker, a different charting software, a different color of your candles. Dude, it's not going to make you a profitable trader. Send me an email, michael@dtrtrading.com, and we'll sort you out. You should have gotten a link to join it when you purchased your trial. Yeah, dtrtrading.com. Yeah, so far so slow here. Yeah, I hear that. Like the computer I have here set up that you guys see, I literally don't do anything on it besides trade. So like there's very like even my like internet history here is very, very safe for work. And so I like having that like formal workspace because it's the same thing like you're saying. It kind of gives me that separation. When I'm done, I'm done. Again, I would love to trade CL here to the downside, but I can't, right? My order will get rejected here by the prop firms, or right, they'll flag me for breaking their rules and deny a payout. So it's just not worth the execution risk. Unfortunate, but it's not worth the execution risk. Yeah, the hopium of thinking, dude, ooh, I'll make money on this gut feeling is a very dangerous feedback loop. Okay, so again here, maybe have an opportunity for a mean or for a ORB fake out setup, right? Failed breakdown here under lows. And this, right, is where I'd be looking for confirmation here based on candle shape and volume profile. Okay, well, send me an email either way. We'll get you sorted out here somehow. Not sure how you would have gotten access to the stream otherwise, but yeah, we can figure that out. Right, so candle shape here looks okay. Candle volume looks fine, right? So confirmation, right, on candle shape, good, right? Looks fine. We're looking at an 82 stop loss here right now. Something like this. Which means, right, that I need to get within 25 points of, we'll call it 80. Right? So that's a 605 entry or better. So approximately that blue line. But again, right, we've seen fake outs fail here already, right? Maybe a potential deja vu type scenario. So I'm not clicking submit the second I see a touch here of this blue line. Gonna want to make sure that I see support establish control here off of that 600 area. And then I can look to jump in. Well, sounds good, man. Send me a message. We'll help you get in the right direction here and fix your trading pain points. Don't have to be unprofitable. It doesn't need to be the case. We'd be happy to help you fix whatever problem is preventing you from getting there. We've got a pretty good killer team here of a lot of winning traders. And so we'd love to add you here to that mix. So again, right, all I'm doing here right now, just setting up my order window. I'm not clicking submit on Bupkis yet. And let's see if this thing finds support here off of this range. So far, no, right? That absolutely disrespected 600. Well, that's what we're doing right now, right? I'm walking you through my process, telling you what I plan on doing so you can take these same trades yourself. Okay, no entry here, right? Didn't give us the correct pullback reaction inside that range. Again, right, we did a good job there saving ourselves some cash and not being stupid. Easier said than done sometimes, but yeah, for sure the case. So if a trade does come together, right, I'll tell you guys what I'm doing, what my entry target is going to be, what my position sizing is going to be, what my stop loss is. You'll hear when I execute my trade, you'll hear me talk about, yeah, what my entry target is, what my scale out price is, how I'm pyramiding. So you'll get every bit of information you need to be able to replicate my same ideas. So although our idea would have maybe been green, would have been a fake out first. No, that to be honest with you, Golden Buddy, that stuff is all kind of bullshit. All those companies are a little bit of scams, and I would get busted by the SEC for basically trading people's capital without doing the proper KYC or doing the accredited investor styles. So no, those things aren't really legal or really allowed. And if you wanted to do it with a prop firm, the prop firms effectively ban all of those things. So what you're actually looking for in the future space does not exist. Yeah, but I still can't submit along inside this range under this red line, right? So CL, like it's filtering out. Again, it's not that we had the wrong idea. We had the right idea, but we would have been stopped out on this trade before it ever makes this run. So from an execution perspective, right, we've done a good job there avoiding a mistake. Again, just kind of telling ourselves, right, that, hey, it's going to be a choppy day. It might be a little bit bouncy. It might be XYZ. We're making it easy, right, to delay that gratification and not force any decisions. That's a positive. A boring one, but it's a positive. $100% cheaper in the long run. And you've seen it. All you need is one quick little trade to have yourself a great day, right? We didn't get a trade yesterday until after 11. I don't see one. 3-min time frame. It's an okay candle, but it's not increasing outlier volume. It's just increasing. So if I'm looking at the contextual volume profiles, right, since 948, nothing like this doesn't stand out, right, as being particularly strong relative to this PA. Sam, you asked me, did I used to look at market profile, footprint charts, or things like that? Nah. I've literally just been focusing on candlesticks and volume. That suits my eye. I've kind of fallen in love with that. So I don't, I don't complicate that by looking at other things. The only change that I have created is the volume candles, right? And all that means is that when it's a high volume bar, the candle's fatter. That's it. I'm a little bit confused by your request, Nautilus. So it's the candles, right? You go into the candles here, and you have like the bars, the candles, the hollow candles, and the volume candles. So I just use the volume candles. Um, Still challenging. I don't think I can have my stop loss inside this range. So for me, like I think just from an execution perspective, I'm gonna probably avoid CL because the risk of taking a trade, it's like it's a double jeopardy risk, right? I have the chance to lose money if my idea is wrong, and I have the chance to effectively get banned or rejected on a win if it's right. So just from like an execution perspective, that risk doesn't make a ton of sense. Oh, okay. So bullish engulfing, right, just means that the candle closed above the high of the previous bar, right? It looks like as if a mouth is closing on the previous bar. So like this, for example, right? This 939 candle, that's a bearish engulfing candle, right? Closed under the previous low of day, right? This is a bullish engulfing candle, right? Closed above the previous high of the previous candle. But truth be told, I don't really use that information to dictate like a directional bias or what I'm trying to do. I'm more just using that as jargon because that's what the term is called, if that makes sense. Right? Because if the candle is a most bullish, second most bullish, or normal body bullish, I mean, most bullish or normal bullish are very likely to be bullish engulfing, right? And then same thing here to the downside, right? The most bearish or normal bearish are very likely to be bearish engulfing. So it's kind of just like an interchanged term. So I wouldn't get caught up in that. That's just me using jargon. Okay. So NQ here, possible reversal scenario, right? Strong candle shape, increasing outlier volume. Probably the only thing I don't like here is it just couldn't hold above 700 there at that final chance. So I'm going to pass on that burden of confirmation here to a slightly larger time frame and see if that's what I can get. So I effectively need to see a close back up above that blue line for me to call that confirmation. And, right, if this candle closes at that blue line, it'll also be called a bullish engulfing candle. And then engulfing on volume, right, is the same concept. Basically, just the volume is larger than the previous bar. Make sense? Cool. Yeah. I want some, it sound crazy, but I used to have a section of that was like linked to Investopedia, and it was just like answering all those types of questions. And it was just, yeah, like a link to the page. And someone, this was like 2 years ago, called me a scammer and a con artist for linking it like for a glossary to Investopedia. They said that I was stealing and scamming and that they were going to report me to the SEC. And so I stopped linking that on my website. But if you ever feel like you need a resource, that would be the starting point. Like from a definitions perspective. Okay, so again, now back to the 10. It's a shame this thing wanted to fake out before it moved. Would have been a great trade. All right, so we'll continue to wait it out here. So if we're thinking about our prep this morning, all the things we talked about, did we kind of nail it or did we kind of get it completely wrong? What do we think? Let me rephrase that. Did our prep help us control basically our anxiety to make a decision here today? Or would we say we got it kind of wrong and we should have taken trades? Yeah, I think we nailed it as well, right? And the reason I'm saying that, right, is because a well thought out daily plan, right, is a form of like proactive risk management. Right? So if I'm reminding myself, right, if I'm acknowledging that, hey, this is probably the most likely outcome, it's easier to catch myself before I get into that like impulsive tunnel vision, out of body trading experience, right? And the more that we can anticipate, how we think price action is going to behave or move or do whatever, easier it is for us to remain calm because we've expected it. It's like that scene in Batman, right? Where the Joker says, like, everyone panics if you just blow up a random hospital, but if you tell them that you're going to blow up a hospital, no one panics. Kind of an extreme example, but that's effectively what our prep is supposed to do, right? We're supposed to build in our information so that when the bullets start firing, we're in control, right? We're the ones who are deciding what we should be doing. I think with all of my movie analogies recently, you can tell that I've re-upped my Netflix subscription. Ooh, if I had to lose one forever, I'll say Breaking Bad. Entourage was my favorite show when I was a kid, like when I was like 16, 17. And yeah, it's the only time I've ever cried when a TV show ended. I remember watching the last last episode of Entourage when I was like 18, and I cried. So I think I have no choice. It's true love. Oh yeah, the movie was terrible. What you expect? But like the Sopranos movie wasn't great. So that's kind of the general. Now, if you ask me if it was Sopranos or Entourage, okay, now we're having a discussion. Me, I don't know if I could live life without Tony. Yeah, I'd say so far so chill here, team. Nothing really for me to do. Well, if you got terminal cancer, Mike, how long can a run go? But yeah, epic show. It's probably probably the last TV show I remember watching where I watched every episode as it was live on TV. Like the anxiety of waiting for that next episode. Oh my god, or the next season. Oh my gosh. One sec here, guys. One sec. Um, I got for 6 months. So Sorry about that, guys. It was just actually got a call from one of my ex-hedge fund buddies. But yeah, not missed out on anything. Sorry about that. The guy's having a kid. So pretty cool. So maybe on this NQ, we could target a low a day move. Yeah, so what I want to see here, right, is I want to see this probably break down under 700. That's kind of where I would like to see, because those psychological levels or those round numbers are very much acting like support here so far, right? Failed breakdown under 6. Failed breakout here, basically over 8. So it's kind of like, yeah, 3 tiers of stickiness. That sounds gross, but that would be kind of what I'm looking for here. So probably not a strong enough close for me to fire that as a setup trigger. And honestly, so far so slow. I have not missed out on anything here. Again, it's not that this thing can't break down from here. Absolutely could. But for me to call this an A+ setup, I think I would have needed a break, close, and hold here under 700. And then, yeah, I'd have 140 points of space to the downside. That would have been great. But like I said, right, if it's not easy today, I don't want it. And none of these moves here yet have been easy. If I'm being objective, I think I would have lost money on every like B+ setup I could have taken here so far, even if I would have gotten just like faked out. So mental capital's full. Reserves are fully stocked up. Well, we'll still wait it out, right? Yesterday at this time, we still had not taken a trade. So nothing changing here yet. And again, like I said, if I don't get another trade here this week, I'm in great shape, right? Up 5K in account, give or take. So I don't need to do anything else. Not to say I am going to avoid trades, but has to be perfect, has to be textbook, has to be A+, has to be easy. Love that, Samuel. Yeah, trading is one of those things, right, where we get paid for our decisions, not our time. And we go from there. So for me, right, I'm looking first candle that does it. First candle that does it on increasing outlier volume. So if that happens on the 3-min, cool. It didn't, so pass it on to the 5. The 5 and the 3-min closed at the same time. And so now really I'd be looking at the 10-min. And then if that one doesn't do it, then the 15. I basically just cycle through. Really the way that I look at my setups here in general is what's the first time frame that tells me the same story as my daily thesis? And I'll just pick the first one that gives it to me. And then if for whatever reason, right, the trade gets invalidated, I can't get an entry, it doesn't give me the right reaction, right, on the pullback, whatever you want to call it, then I'll just pass on that burden of confirmation to a longer time frame and reset. But by default, I'm always looking at the 3-min first. If it doesn't accomplish it on the 3, I'll just keep passing on that burden. Make sense? Okay, so 10 min has a good chance to set up here. What was that 42 to 76? So this would probably be still a pullback entry, but you need a big pullback. You need like a 100-point pullback, right? So on this 10-min time frame, might be a little bit challenging for us to get it. So really our probably only hope here would then be on the aggressive. We'll set it out for now. Yeah, it's not enough volume. So I would say, like, unfortunately here right now, it's just a drop day. So no rush yet. Everyone feeling chill, calm? Why, Tom? Why agitated? Oh, if it's having technical issues, just walk away. No need to force it. They do happen. follow up with their tech support, Tom. Generally, when those types of situations happen, they're pretty good at making sure that that doesn't negatively impact your account. So I'm sure they'll do you right. uh, so yeah, I mean, the way I see things right now, probably a lower probability of me being able to get a setup. It doesn't mean that the day is over or done so, but yeah, probabilities are probably a little bit lower. Yeah, if I don't get a trade here today, no problem. Been a great week. I don't have to put any extra pressure on myself. Again, right? No real increasing outlier volume separation candles away from that 700. Yeah, I haven't quite figured out the exact timing, Jared, but that's sort of my rough idea here. Like I'm planning on doing that drive. Yeah, like the 25th to the 1st or the 2nd. But yeah, I'll try to figure that out this weekend. Not to not to justify taking the time off, but I take less days off now than I did working at a fund. Kind of funny. Like my last year working in Guernsey, I had 43 vacation days. And I took every single one of them. So this, right, now a bearish engulfing candle, right, because it's under previous candle's lows. Now you'd like to see it, right, go bearish engulfing on volume. close. But yeah, guys, to the place I'm moving at, the internet speed, all this kind of fun stuff, it's going to be crazy good. Hopefully it ends up being a very productive few months. Not outlier. Not increasing. Kind of look like we're in a channel. Something like that. So now, right, kind of based on how we've seen price action behavior so far, maybe our most likely outcome, right, would be like a reversal here off of these lows, back up towards like the opening range high, opening range low. So a two-way tape, but not one that's being supported with the volume that I desire. Maybe I could have maybe not filtered out this 3-min. Be a bit picky. I want to see Brooks Koepka win. He's my favorite, I would say. How about you? Who you got? I find Rory to be extremely unlikable. Like for someone who hasn't won a major tournament in 10 years or whatever it is, he's got like too much cachet. Very controversial, Jared. And as long as he doesn't get arrested, he's in a good shot. Oh, I'd love to see Bryson too, just for the YouTube content. Almost. You have to say, this like emphasis on trying to be more calm and like more collected and more chill inside each trading day is actually making me want to spend more days trading. Like I come back feeling like sharp and ready to go at a much higher clip. What's your thesis you're testing, Nautilus? It's not enough volume. Okay, yeah. So like a low vol pullback, basically like a volume divergence reversal entry. No, nothing here yet. Still just watching. Hey, appreciate that, Ed. Look, my objective here with this program and the stream in general is to share you guys a very unfiltered approach on how to become the best trader that you can be. And from my perspective, that very much means really just controlling my psychology, right? And putting myself in situations to just execute my rules day in, day out. Hopefully we'll get a few trades here at some point while you're part of the program. But not going to force anything until it's absolutely perfect. And okay, it's been three trading days here so far this week, 3 green days. I have no pressure on myself to make an extra decision or to like rush into a mistake. Awesome work, Nautilus. Help almost 100 points. Let's go. Nice work. Hey, win's a win, right? Good proof of concept. Yeah, and that's I think what paper trading is really powerful for. It can give you sort of that proof of concept, right? And help you iron out some of like the inefficiencies in your execution process. Like I'm a big believer in the power of paper trading because it's just like it's a form of practice, right? Like uh Tom Brady, he didn't just play Super Bowls, right? He spent all that time watching film, going to practice, right? Executing his ideas so that when it was a big moment, it was effectively just muscle memory, right? That was kind of guiding him towards success. I mean, muscle memory and deflated footballs, but we can talk about that another time. But I think if the like if we like I played a lot of sports, right? So I study athletes. I like to learn from athletes, and the ones that I always respect the most are the ones with like relentless practice habits, right? The Mamba mentality stuff. Like the athletes who have an incredible amount of natural talent and then work like so ridiculously hard to squeeze every ounce out of their talent. I respect those athletes a tremendous amount. Yeah, Allen Iverson, he would have been full porting. Yeah, he would have been full porting prop firm evals to test ideas. Yeah, exactly. I'm sure I've said this in the past. Like even when I worked institutionally, I would be forced to paper trade. So if I ever took 5 days off away from the market, so a full week out of the market, I would have to come back. When I come back, I would have to stack up 5 green days in a row before I'd be able to trade live again. And man, you'd get bitched out more for not taking your paper trading seriously than you would if you lost money making or trading with real cash. Yeah, maybe next time you place a paper trade Nautilus, try that with micros. Even that still would have been, potentially a $600-700 win. That still would have been pretty nice. And yeah, you sold pretty much at the top, so well done. Man, this is starting to get boring now. All right, so we're back looking for a low of day breakdown as our setup trigger. Yeah, CL's. This should have been frustrating to sit watching all day. Any questions here, team? Any of you guys want to go over anything I haven't maybe covered here today? That sounds wonderful, Jack. Not quite gonna call it here yet, Deb, but I'm like probabilities of me getting a setup here are pretty low. Like if I were to put it into percentages, I'd probably say like a 95% chance I don't get a trade here at this point. So I can't make these candles. I don't think wider. I don't think I can change those settings. Maybe it's just natural. The only thing I've changed, right, is I use volume candles, which make these fatter. $8.12 PST. You mean this one? This candle here? So what's missing, right, is it's missing outlier volume, and it's not breaking down through low of day. So the setup trigger that candle would have had to have done is hold under this blue line on increasing outlier volume. So I've got increasing but not outlier, and it didn't hold under that blue line. So no setup. Yeah, outliers anything above that white line. And that's looking at the 20 most recent volume bars, right? So it's outlier relative to 23 min bars, right? So outlier relative to the last hour. Is that correct? Yeah. On this current time frame. And so we're not getting like a personality change or shift relative to that to indicate anything other than sort of choppy environments. So yeah, I would say we haven't actually skipped any setups. Really, the only one that I could make the argument for would be this 1042 candle. That would be probably the only trade I would argue that it maybe was a skipped one. But at the time, I wanted it to hold under 700 for it to be a setup, and it didn't quite do that. So I'm not sure I'm going to hold that against myself. It's not specifically a signal. It's just when you double click your volume, it's just ticked volume MA. Yeah, like I don't think, like Sammy, I think you're spot on. Like even if I did have a setup, it probably would have been an execution failure. So no big deal. Again, I'm up almost 5K on the week here per account. Still averaging more than $1,000 a day. If I don't do anything else here, right? It's a great week. Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment, Robert. Yeah. Again, if we get a nice breakdown here under a low of day, increasing outlier volume, yeah, we're in business. But we're struggling to see any of that type of enthusiasm here so far. And so it is what it is. I can't hold it against myself when price action moves without following my rules. Because price action that moves without following my rules isn't price action that I'm expected to be profitable on. So I don't want to punish myself for being disciplined. That's like pretty aggressive self-sabotage. And like we said, right? Setups are like buses. There's always another one coming. And okay, if I miss one, I'll be 7 minutes late. Oh no. I can deal with that, right? It's okay. Okay, so here we have a chance, right? 500 breakdown. We're going to be close to increasing outlier. Okay, nope. Right? Didn't close under 500. Close, but not outlier. So we'll pass on that burden of confirmation here to the 5-min time frame. And then potentially write the 10-min after that. Again, it's not that price action can't break down from these levels. It could very much give me 200 points of follow through, no problem. But it's not giving me the high probability of that being a high conviction move, right? And I'm not interested in trading something if it isn't easy today. So far, not easy. So far, haven't lost a dime. So again, right? Increasing, but not outlier volume, doesn't hold above 500. All the information I'm constantly getting here from price action, right, is that it's like it's grinding its teeth. And I hate the dentist. I don't want to grind my teeth here. That sounds terrible, right? Yeah, that's fantastic. That's a great day. Yeah, I think objectively, from my perspective, probably pot committed to not taking a trade. Something crazy would have to change here. Obviously, doesn't mean it can't happen. We have a chance on this 3-man candle to give me a reversal signal. Now, if we adjust it like that, right, that little dip buy maybe makes a little bit more sense. 3 points of contact on that bottom trend line. Outlier, but not increasing on ES. So it's a lot of like just half-baked looks, truth be told. So yeah, any questions, team? Anything you guys want to go over? I'm shutting my computer or my execution screen down. Not going to do anything. Sounds good, Samuel. Well done for being nice and chill here today. Delay that gratification, and I'm confident, right, that improves your trading. I love that for you. Nice, Mike, but green on the week, right? Yeah, that's fantastic. That's a proactive, not reactive form of risk management. You finish green on a week where the market bleeds like this. Whoops. You're in great shape, right? That's a very sustainable career path. Well, things don't get much nastier than what we've seen here this week. Like literally, historically, yesterday was one of the craziest days of all time. Hey. But if you told yourself that, hey, told me a year ago, right, that, hey, if I just follow my rules and structure, I'm going to be a profitable trader, you probably wouldn't have believed that either, right? Or you'd be like, sure, buddy. So it's a little bit humbling how sometimes when we force ourselves to slow down, it actually speeds things up. Like if I could just avoid my like worst case scenario trades, if I just got rid of all the ones where I felt like I lost mental control, I'm in great shape, right? And the more that you obsess over those, the less of those lapses you have, and the more your account compounds and stacks. But yeah, when we try to force it, we try to rush trades, we try to like every day has to be green, and you're asking for a disaster. Sounds good, Sammy. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. All right, team, I'm going to go final call for questions here. Final call for questions. Enjoy, Mike. Love you sharing your discipline journey with us. That's fantastic. Very inspiring, man. Yeah, looking like a fake out here so far. Have a good day, Marco. Enjoy. You know, it looks like a rejection, but our target's 59.60. So it's like, sweet, I got 23 cents. I don't have the space to do that. All right, team. Well, if no further questions, I'm going to kill the stream here for the day. Same deal like always, right? If you have any questions, hit me up outside of market hours, and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. For those of you who are DTR guests and joined us, thank you so much for checking us out here today. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly, michael@dtrtrading.com or Michael DTR inside Discord, or reach out to your advisor. I'm sure they'll be happy to help you and point you in the right direction. So if you guys have any questions, right, obviously don't hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, looking forward to catching up with a few of you here in my one-on-one calls this afternoon, and looking forward to chatting with you all then. So have yourselves a fantastic rest of the day, and I'll see you guys on Monday. No temptation here. No temptation to go in. It's like you have that vacation brain. Not to say I'm going on holiday, but I'm about to end my day. I haven't seen anything here that I like, and so I'm pot committed to finishing the day 0-0. All right, everybody. We'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll finish off the week here with a bang. And good job here today, right? Just avoiding some obvious mistakes and not kind of falling for the trap of what has been a pretty bouncy session. So well done, everybody. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Enjoy your day. Peace.